Welcome. Hi, my name is Gwen, and I'm a second year BSc Computer Science student at Richmond American University London.
And my name is Ira Konstantinou, and I'm the program leader for the BSc Computing Science.
We've created this short video to give you some insights. I hope you enjoy. At the end, we'll add some contact information if you have any questions. So what is this degree really about?
So this degree sits within the liberal arts system. So it is taking core courses in computing science and a few options, but it really sits within the liberal arts tradition. So as you enter the degree, you take courses within computing science, but also courses in general education like research and writing, service learning, even environmental science. That gives you a broader view of how academia works, so that then you can work with a minor, for example, in another area, or you can really skill up in the employability skills, like what the service learning courses would do. And if you look at the structure of the degree, we're looking at the first 2 years as introductory or more fundamental courses to be taken during those 2 years, and then all the options and the more core courses and upper level courses are taken in the last 2 years of the degree. But you have to consider this is a very new degree for Richmond. It has been only running for 1 year, so it's still in development and evolving, and students are new to the degree, much like you are. So in the meantime, we have been trying to make sure that the degree is running smoothly, that it has the facilities that it requires. So today, I think we will be talking about future plans than what is currently going on, as it's running only for the second term.
Let's dive a bit deeper. So what are some of the courses and modules that you'll take within this degree?
So within the first 2 years, you're really taking more introductory courses, so the basic skills that you will need for computing science, but also the knowledge, the theoretical knowledge that you will need. So in the first year, you will take foundations in computing science, so giving you a broad perspective of what the theories are like and how software and hardware have evolved over time. But that is complemented by more practical courses like coding courses, fundamentals of programming, introduction to programming, where you're going to be looking at Python, HTML, JavaScript, looking at the basics before really you move on to develop your own programming skills for level 5 and 6, so for junior level and for senior level. But also during those 2 first years, you will take the introductory courses that have to do with web design and web development, especially for those students who are interested in that area of employability, but also a little bit on mathematics and how mathematics feed into computer systems and software systems. So for example, I know that you're taking data and algorithms this term, so you're looking at how algebra or physics will feed into that, looking at Boolean algebra and looking at how do you go from the hardware to the software, and looking at the basics of that system and how that architecture works, while also doing the coding. So you're also in the programming courses. And I know that you're also taking a course that is complementing your major, that is coding in context. So that kind of course looks at applications that are not necessarily for computing science majors.
I can see that there are some electives for this course, like the coding and content. Which ones are available? What do they do?
So in the first couple of years, you don't have many options in terms of electives, because we need to make sure that the core is established before you are choosing which pathway do you want to take within computing science. But there are a few, like the coding in context, where you're looking at the beginnings of artificial intelligence and how actually you can apply what you learned in coding into developing an app with very specific briefs, technical briefs of what the app should be doing. So coding a little game or coding how objects can move in space on a screen. And that really puts the basis there for you to see what you're interested in, first of all, so that then at level 5 and 6, so in your 3rd and 4th year, so next year, you will be able to take options outside the core, like taking brain and cognition next year. And we discussed this, which options to take for next year. So I think that the brain and cognition course, which is a psychology course, so we are teaching it in the psychology department, will complement well what you learned in the coding class, as it will look at the neuroscience of artificial intelligence. So you have looked at the application of it, how do you code it, what does that look like? And then the brain and cognition course will give you all the theoretical background of why it is coded like this, instead of anything else. So it would do that link for you. And then you will be able to decide, is that something that I'm interested in? Is something that I want to pursue, or is this not for me? So the options at the moment are quite restricted because it is a new degree, but we would hope that with the plans that we have in place for next year to grow the degree, we will be able to offer more options for students. Which options would you be interested in taking from next year?
I know the game design is one of the options, and that's very interesting to me. There's a few database and like IT courses as well that look interesting, and just need to follow the pathway, maybe take a few of each, just to get a basis of overall.
Yes, and that is really interesting about the American system, that at least it allows you to know what you don't want to do. You find what you want to do by taking the many options. And I think it's interesting that the American system is doing across departments, so that you can do across disciplines, other areas that you might not have thought about, and look at how those can fit into your plans for the future.
Yeah, I like how the psychology department is included in the brain and cognition, and then I believe there's a database in business which kind of connects the business departments to computer science as well.
Yes, so there is an advanced computer applications for business that is offered within the business department, and that has the basics of coding that you have done in Introduction to Programming, and follows up from what you have done there to have applications within the business world. And that will be really useful for you to see, is that a pathway that I want to take? Actually, it's a pathway that is very well paid. So it might be something interesting that you want to pursue as an internship in the future.
As you mentioned internships, what are the different options and when would I take those?
So the internship usually is taken by students between the junior year and the senior year. So as you finish your level 5 or year 3 courses, and just before you start your year 4 or level 6 courses, so that you have enough skills and enough knowledge base for you to be able to work in a place where you can actually do more than photocopying. Because a lot of internships in universities can just involve shadowing people, but here we're looking at a very practical degree. So the point would be to have an internship that allows you to be hands-on. So an internship in programming, an internship maybe in web design or data analysis, because data science is becoming so big now, especially within business, would be really, really interesting to do. And we do not have the internships running yet, but the plan with the internship office is to actually utilize the Chiswick Business Park, where we're situated, to develop those internships. So we had a meeting with the internship office and some of the leaders in the park to see how we can develop those internships for computing students. And there is always a demand for interns. We just need to make sure that you're actually getting the most out of that internship. It's a well-established program in other degrees, but we need to really work with you and the internship office to develop how exactly this is going to work. But I think that's really what a degree like this would need in terms of employability.
I know internships are graded a bit differently. How are also the other classes in computer science assessed?
So the internships are graded based on the portfolio of work that you are developing, and you keep a learning journal in that internship, reflecting back on the skills that you have learned. And it is a combination of the supervisor, the internal supervisor's grade, and the supervisor at the internship. Typically, students do very well. So you're very well prepared, and you have invested in taking an internship. In the other courses, at the moment we're looking at a combination between mini projects, so looking at here's a client brief, how do you actually code for that client brief? So we're looking at much more application kind of assessment, which I think is more useful in an applied degree. And some of the assessment does have an essay or report element of looking at the theoretical knowledge and testing for their theoretical knowledge. But as the degree develops, I think the assessment will be more varied because it needs to be project-based. So working within the park to develop those assessments will be really important. How are you finding the assessments?
So far, a lot of the classes I've taken have been the theoretical classes, and I'm only taking one of the practical courses. So it's been a lot of essays and small mini projects, but I'd like to do more of like you get a scenario and have to complete a project for it, which is fun for me as so far.
But you did though a technical paper, a technical journal for the coding class?
Yeah, so that's the elective course, but with that class we did have to create a little like web game and then write about how we made it, what errors we came across, and I think it really helped just looking back at it as well, just seeing how much I've grown since then, and even though that was just a semester ago.
So it is really a reflective journal, a very technical journal, but a reflective journal, much like you will have for the internship. And it will be different in other degrees because that in other degrees will be less skills-based. But in computing science, it will be much more like the technical journal that you had to keep for that course. It sounds like you enjoyed that course.
I do.
So what did first attract you to the university?
Well, I knew I wanted to study abroad at least one semester, and while I was looking for different places that I could study, this university offering both American and UK degrees really piqued my interest because I would get to study abroad for all 4 years, but then I'd also get 2 degrees, so it was almost like a win-win in both scenarios.
And what do you think attracted you to this program?
Computer science is always growing, and there's so many different pathways that you can take. And I'm like very interested in gaming and game design, and computer science is just a pathway to that. And I thought that if I took the classes and I tried my hand at it, even if I didn't like game design, there's so many other ways that I could go with a degree like this.
Yeah. So it is software engineering and web design, and obviously game design that attracts a lot of students. But students do have other options, like going into data science or looking at user interface. There are a lot of students who take computing science as a minor, and they're looking at crossover between other disciplines and computing, which will be an interesting thing for you to look at when you take the courses outside your major, to look at, for example, how to make software more user-friendly, the interface with who the audience is or who is playing these games, and not assume that necessarily it is diverse or inclusive. So that kind of angle we're really looking to enhance in the program, the ethics and the sustainability of it, which is a big discussion at the moment in technology. So looking at the options in those areas will be interesting for you as the program develops.
Yeah, I'm currently going for a minor in marketing, and so kind of the connection between marketing online and technology is very interesting to me.
And that will be an interesting thing to look at then when you have developed a small web-based game, then you're looking at the marketing aspects of that to look at how it could address diverse audiences, like neuroatypical audiences, who don't necessarily play in the same way, or concentrate in the same way, or remember in the same way. And that would be an interesting thing for you to look at going forward. That would be an interesting internship, actually. I would be interested in knowing more about that now. So that would be the kinds of things that you can do after finishing the degree. I'm expecting a few students to go on to master's study, and not necessarily go into employment straight away. But a lot of students who study computing science do both. They do their masters and they work at the same time, or their masters is funded by the company that they work in, and that is typical of business students and computing science students. Mm-hmm. So you have taken courses over 2 semesters now. Yeah. What do you think works well in the program? So what would you say is working well until now, or what kind of developments do you think you're envisioning for the future?
I think because computer science is such a small major currently and so new, that any sort of input that I have is like very well listened to. If I have any sort of issue, there's always someone there trying to improve it, trying to make things better. And I think that's very important for such a new degree.
It is really important to hear the student voice, especially in a university that is, the class size is small, or relatively small compared to other universities. And it is very important for a development degree that is so skills-based to make sure that it evolves along with the students, especially when we have such a evolution in artificial intelligence over the last few weeks, that we need to keep pace with that, because it has really outpaced anything that we would have taught a year ago. And that is normal in that industry, that is normal in that area. So having a look at artificial intelligence that is interesting to you, again, and looking at how the newer developments of artificial intelligence are feeding into what you need to know for the future, and future-proofing your job so that actually ChatGPT doesn't do everything for you, that would be really important. So we really value the student voice, especially in a place like this, where the American system is a hybrid with the UK system, and you need to really keep abreast of the changes across both systems, across both educational communities, really.
As the student senator for computer science, I get to hear a lot of that input as well, and I get to pass it on, and it makes me very happy to see that the change is actually happening. The input that I get to pass along is actually meaningful and does something in our community.
I really hope that that is the case, and I really hope that the plans that we have discussed for the future do come to fruition come fall. That is my plan anyway, and that is your plan anyway. So looking to get the student voice more involved in the classroom as well would be really good. So having the students who are going into their junior year, yes, it is a small cohort. There is a handful of you, really. If you could get involved with the younger students, the new students coming in, being able to teach in class, be teaching assistants, that would be really valuable to you, obviously, but really valuable also to the new cohort. To be role models for the younger students, it's always a valuable thing. And hopefully we can get that computing science club off the ground, maybe over the summer.
That's what I was hoping, is that by the beginning of next semester we'll have a running club that computer science students can join and be a part of.
Yes, exactly. That would be really interesting to see how the extracurricular activities develop, what everybody is interested in as the cohorts grow. And it feels that there is an international crowd coming in, so that would be really interesting to see how that can feed into the curriculum, having very different interests from people coming from different parts of the world, really.
Thanks for watching this video. I hope you find it useful. If you need any more information, there will be some contact info below.